I recently saw a posting on X talking about the money that casino companies, gaming companies must spend on analytics. And I'm here to tell you that it's not as much as you think it would be. Now, that doesn't make sense, right? Because casinos are a huge creator of data, right? All kinds of data on player profiles, gaming habits, the way the machines and the games perform, the holds and the drops and the wins and the theoretical wins. So much data in a casino, right? But I wanted to share a story with you about an experience that I had because I had some experience working for gaming companies. I have a couple on my resume. I don't want to go into that, but I do have experience in the gaming space. And I want to take you back to 2017. I was doing a job search, and I had an interview with a very, 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 very large property on the Las Vegas Strip, a casino property that everybody would recognize, known around the world. And they put me through a series of interviews. To their credit, they're one of these companies that does like a whole slate of interviews in one day in order to speed up their hiring process. So I appreciate that they were doing that. So I went through that process, and at the end of that process, you meet you meet with the top analytics VP there, and they gave me a job offer. They gave me a job offer the same day that they had the interview. So everything went really well. And I was really surprised that they were only offering $40,000 a year for the job. Now, even in 2017, analytics were still very popular. To me, when I read that description, when I signed up for the job, for the interviews, that was at least $110,000 to $120,000 job. Nowadays, it might be a little bit more than that, because of inflation. But it was at least 110,000. That would have been like my bottom. I would have asked for 120. So for them to offer 40,000 was just ridiculous, right? Like, it just wasn't even in the conversation. We were so far apart. There was no need for us to even continue. And that was really something that was kind of disappointing to see, because it really displayed how much they didn't really value analytics to begin with, right? If you valued analytics, you wouldn't be offering that rate. On top of that, what really, really concerned me was that this was a management role. This was a lead analytics for them, and this was specifically looking at their player club. The cards that you get at a casino. You put it in the machine, or you give it to the dealer when you're playing. To track your spending and your habits and all that. So really interesting data, and also very core to a gaming company, right? And what ended up happening there, or rather what concerned me, was that I was going to be managing two other analysts. During the interview process, they introduced me to the analysts, and they were very nice. Two middle-aged ladies, very nice. I'm sure they were very talented. But it made me think to myself, like, geez, if they're paying me 40,000 and I'm the manager, what are they paying the two ladies that are reporting to me? Maybe 35, maybe 30,000 a year, right? Because presumably the manager would, get paid a little bit more, but I couldn't imagine they'd be paying anything less than 30. So, I mean, so looking at it from my perspective as a manager, does that set me up for success? I mean, even if they were to come up on the salary, does that set me up for success to have two analysts that are severely underpaid? I mean, again, even at that time, 2017 in Las Vegas, that's being an analyst for a casino is at least a $60,000 job, at least. So it was possible that these two analysts that would be reporting to me were maybe like kind of under market by about 50%, like you could double their salaries and that would still be like the bottom of the market for data analysts, right? So again, it really kind of comes back to the thinking that these companies don't spend nearly as much on analytics as you think they do. Here's another one that if you want to, or here's another part of the story that I thought was also really interesting. Another part of the story that kind of got to me was that, as the casinos in Las Vegas are very nice, very hip, and very trendy, and their offices are equally nice. So I do remember that this casino had some extremely nice offices, like really, really nice offices. And I've been a consultant. This is not my first job. I've been in the workforce for 20 plus years. I've been all over the world, worked for all kinds of companies, big companies, small companies, rich companies, not so rich companies. I know what really, really good office space looks like. And these people had some really, really nice office space. Like it was one of those environments where you kind of just like felt cool, being in it, like I felt cool sitting there and for the interviews. Like it was just like a really nice environment, with the soft lighting and the modern furniture, like really, really nice offices. So that was kind of my takeaway where I walked away and I thought, you know what? These people don't take analytics seriously at all. They might not take their business seriously at all because guess what? They spent all their money on the furniture. They spent all their money on these really, really nice offices. So, unfortunately, I did have to decline the position. Um, as a funny like postscript to that, I know that I did well and I know that the company wanted me because the very next day after I turned them down, because I turned them down in person, they gave me the offer right there on the spot. I said no on the spot. We're too far apart, not even worth talking. But, no hard feelings, walked out of there, and thanked them for their time, and they did the same. But I remember the next day, one of the HR representatives, one of the uppers, one of the muckety mucks in HR called me and they were like, "Hey, Dennis, I'm looking over the notes from yesterday. It looks like the team really loved you, and we'd hate to lose you as a candidate. All the feedback from the interviews was really good. We'd love to have you work for us." And they offered me like an extra like $3,000 a year or something like that. Like they could have. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like they could go from 40 to 43, or they can go from like 42 to 45, just a negligible number, right? I mean, again, the job was worth 110 at least. So for them to go from, 40 to 43, like who cares, right? Like I just wasn't taking the job. They could have doubled it and I would still tell them, I would be likely to tell them thanks, but no thanks, right? Like even at 80, I'd be way under market. But that was something where, you would think the industry would spend a lot more money. And by the way, I should say also, the low salaries is not unique to this company. There are gaming companies out there that will pay market rates, but this is not the first time I've heard of gaming companies that pay severely under rate, not just for analytics, but for other positions, other professional positions that I'm talking, right? Like back of house corporate positions I'm talking about here. But this is an example of where you think companies are willing to invest, willing to spend money, willing to really kind of put some resources behind the critical data that drives their infrastructure, that drives their client relationships, that drives their future investments, things along those lines. But I want to put it out there because it is possible that some of these companies, some of these industries that you think you want to work in, you think they're going to really take care of you, you think they're really putting a serious emphasis on their analytics, maybe they're not as serious as you might think.